Hello, how are you? How are you doing? Let's see who's here. Let's take a roll call. I see Lily is here. Lily, is that Lydia? Sophia, that's easy. Mayada, that's easy. Hello, Gustavo. Is that Naruto? No, that's not Naruto. Who is that in your profile picture? I see Hermons Oliveira. Is that Bon Jovi? I don't know who that is. Oliveira is Bon Jovi. It has to be Bon Jovi. Hello. And I see, is that little Mateus? Hey, good to see you, man. Oh, no, Victor Hugo. Then I don't know who the other Oliveira is. Who is Hermons Oliveira? Hi, Jeza. We're getting a roll call here. We're getting a lot of students. I'm very happy. It's good to see everybody. Okay. So, guys, before we begin, we need to talk about doing your assignments, okay? Because, let's see here, I'm going to get my screen big. And when I go to US history and look at my grades, this is not everybody's grades, but look at that, okay? We need to have more. You guys need to do your quizzes. When should you do your quizzes? Do your quizzes as soon as I finish the lessons, okay? So today we are going to move ahead. We're going to actually start chapter 4. So that means that you have to do the quiz for Unit 1, Lesson 2, Lesson 3, 4, and 5, okay? You have to do quizzes for Chapter 3 and Chapter 2. So what am I going to do to help you? Not on Tuesday, not Tuesday, okay? But next Thursday, we are going to have a quizzes, okay? Just quizzes, live broadcast, where you're going to open your Blackboard, open your quizzes, and you're going to do your quizzes live, okay? And you know what's cool about it is that if you have any questions about any of the questions, you can ask me. I can help you answer the questions. I know that some of you can't answer or can't write on YouTube. So while I'm teaching with you, I have the WhatsApp page open for 10th grade sophomore. I see it right now. I know Rodrigo is having a problem getting the link, but as soon as he gets the link, I guess he will be with us. So you can write in the WhatsApp group. You can write to me on Skype. I'm online right now on Skype, so you can ask me a question on Skype. Or if you can write in the live chat box, then write in the live chat box. But guys, you have to do these quizzes, okay? These quizzes, it's not something that we can do in the class because I have to teach, okay? What I'm gonna help you with is just like in the last class, as we read the material, we will be answering the questions for your notebook, okay? So I see here that this student gave their notebook part 1 and they got 20 out of 20. Really good job, okay? So we finished lesson 2 and 3, so you should be giving the notebook for that, okay? So we're going to start going into chapter 4, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. Remember, I asked you guys to open your Blackboard and your ebook. Why? because if we go here on units, you can probably do it faster because you have a little thing here that says journals and I don't. We're going to go to Unit 1, creating a nation. Unit 1, assignments. So we did that. We did that. Oh, Mr. Ray made a mistake. Sorry. We are actually on Unit 3. Okay. And we're going to go to assignments because Unit 3 is going to talk about Chapter 4. So when you have the assignment here, short answer, you are going to copy and you are going to paste. Okay, and here you're going to put it very nice. You're going to put unit, or I can put Unit 3 notebook. And you can put your questions right here. So as we are reading, let's try to answer the questions, okay? And there's always, usually there's 2 questions. No, look at that. This one is easier than the first one. There's only these questions, and then you have your required notes and your optional notes, okay? If you're not taking notes, you can do these charts. But these charts we have to do, okay? We have to do. So when we get through lesson 1, we will try to do this little chart, okay? I can help you with that. Is that cool? Is everybody on the same page? Here we go. Victor Hugo, I changed the email. Okay, so it's the same person. All right, guys, let's begin. So I'm going to open my ebook and I'm going to go to chapter 4. So if you go here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to talk about urban America, because in chapters 2 and 3, chapter 2, we talked about Americans going to the West. Chapter 3, we talked about industrialization. So with industrialization comes the cities, okay? So European and Asian immigrants arrived in the United States in great number. They provided cheap labor, means it was not expensive to pay them. They made rapid industrial growth possible. They also helped populate the growing cities. As jobs in urban areas became more plentiful, many Americans moved from farms and small towns to the cities. So first they went to the farms and then they said, hey, let's go to the cities. So read this chapter to learn how the events of the 19th century shaped the United States as it is today. Again, you can click here and listen to all of that. Place and time just gives us an outline of everything that's happening. So we had these immigrants coming from Asia. We had more immigrants coming from Europe. We had people coming from Africa, and this is after slavery, so they were coming freely. And of course, Latin America, which we still see today, okay? We're going to begin with lesson 1, of course. Always, if you want to listen after, you can press here and you can listen to what is written over here. But let's pay attention to the questions to see if we get the answer to the questions as we read. How do you think life in the big cities was different from life in small towns? Well, this question, guys, you don't really even have to read because it's how do you think, okay? So you can kind of put your opinion there. Just one sentence is enough. So this first question is your opinion. How do you think that life in the big cities was different from life in the farms? Well, I'll tell you, just from living here in Sao Paulo, And sometimes I go to the countryside, the city is very loud and there's more crime and there's more craziness. So here you put your opinion. That's an easy first question. So now let's pay attention when we get to this question, to an answer for this question. Why did political machines develop in cities? So we need to find out what a political machine is. Okay, so here we go. How did immigrants in the late 1800s change American society? So we already saw that Europeans immigrated for many reasons. Many came because they were poor and there were a lot of jobs available. Um, so, but Europe's cities also had a lot of jobs, but so that's not the only reason. So a lot of immigrants came to the United States not just to find work, but to escape the restrictions of social class in Europe. So as you're writing your notes, you can always take stuff like this. Okay, so have your Word page open. So this is your personal notes. Okay, so let me put here notes on chapter 4. Guys, write in your own words. I'm copying and pasting, but later I'll go back and I'll change this to my own words. Here, it's the assignment, right? So this is assignment 4, 3.1. So I'm going to put that up here. Assignments 3.1. Okay, so that it's very clear what I am doing. Everything's very organized. Okay, so let's continue. So we understand that these immigrants came to America for to get away from the social classes in Europe, because the poor stayed poor, the rich stayed rich. A lot of these immigrants came through Ellis Island, okay? And some of them were separated from their families if they didn't have the right medical inspection. And a lot of them got their names changed. But look, 12 million immigrants came to America via Ellis Island. And Ellis Island, if you don't know what that is this right here, Ellis Island. That's where we have the Statue of Liberty today, okay? There's Ellis Island. It's an island in the Statue of Liberty. Here's some immigrants coming. This is a little later in the 1900s, but the Statue of Liberty is right close to there, okay? So you can visit right there. And if you ever go to, sorry. If you ever, I had to close the door, guys. If you ever go to New York, you can visit. So that's where all the immigrants came. And of course, this changed the demographics. If you listened to the last class, you know that demographics are the different types of people, different races, gender, boys or girls, black, white, Hispanic, Chinese, if you have old people, if you have young people. So this really changed America now, because now America had people from Italy, from Greece, Russia, Serbia, okay, and all these people did different types of work, okay? They did every type of job, from bricklayer, which is somebody that makes houses, stone masons, coal miners. They worked with making meats. Some people worked a lot in the garment industry. This is similar to Sao Paulo. If you go to certain places, like you see some people from Bolivia that are here, and they work in the fabric places. In here, actually, a lot of the Portuguese and the Italians, they work with food. So it's very similar to Brazil in this case. And Brazil is similar to America because it's a country of immigrants too, right? Because the original Brazilians are the Indians, just like in America. And then everybody else either came here freely from Europe or came here as slaves during the transatlantic slave trade. Okay? And some of these people also went to the Great Plains as farmers, okay? And we call different groups of people from different races and cultures ethnic groups. So by the 1890s, immigrants were a large percentage of major cities like New York, Chicago, Milwaukee, Detroit, and they usually lived in their own separate neighborhoods, like Little Italy. The Lower East Side has a lot of Jews, okay? And this is, again, very similar to Sao Paulo. If you go to Liberdade, you have the Japanese. If you go to, I think, Bom Retiro, you have the Koreans. I believe in Bexiga, you have some Portuguese, Italians, or Mocha has a lot of Italians. So the same way that they did this here in Sao Paulo, they do this in America. Just that there, I think it's more than here. Okay, so you have these regions of the city that have different types of ethnic populations. Okay, also, look, we have a lot of Germans that moved to Texas to become farmers. That's very similar to the Germans in the south of Brazil. If anybody has been to the south of Brazil, you know that there's a lot of Germans. I'm going to always check back here to see if anybody has any questions. You can write questions in the comments, or you can send me questions via WhatsApp. Okay, I'm on WhatsApp right now if you have any questions, but send it in the group because I have the group open. Okay, don't send me a personal message on WhatsApp or Skype. Okay, so we're cool. We still didn't get to this first question though, so don't stress. We still don't know what a political machine is. When we get there, I will let you know. Moving ahead, um, the immigrants also brought a difference in religion because remember, America was started by the Protestants, a lot of Protestant, which is here you would say the evangelicals, right? But there are a lot of Catholics that came now, right? Especially Irish were very Catholic. And it became the single largest religious denomination in the country, okay? And before it was not like this. So obviously, the Europeans bring their Catholic religion, the Greeks and the Russians brought the Orthodox Christian church with them, the Jews brought Jewish religion with them. So you see how this is also changing America based on religion. So it's good that America said you are free to have your own religion, right? And then we have Asians. And it says here that they began to come after the Civil War because in China they had a lot of unemployment. And these Chinese came to America, mostly to California because it's closer, right? California is closer to China than New York. So today, over in California, you still have a lot of Asians, especially San Francisco. So, is everybody on the same page? If you have any questions, write them in the comments, guys. If you have any questions, write them in the comments or ask me on Skype or WhatsApp. So now we get some vocabulary. What is a nativist? And by the way, before you begin a chapter, it's nice to get the vocabulary. And nativism is one of these vocabulary questions. Okay, immigrant and ethnic. We already saw what these two words mean. So what is a nativist? Okay, nativism is an extreme dislike of immigrants, right? You believe in like in your natural rights, like America first, right? So that would be something nice to put for your notes. Uh, yeah, and nativists were saying, hey, we were here first. We don't need all these extra people. Uh, we are against them. So some nativists felt that if we have too many Catholics in the country, it's going to kill the Protestant church. And then later, you have other reasons too why nativists are against people coming into the country. Today, we still have nativists, and they mostly feel like, hey, because now a lot of people are coming from Latin America, if we let too many Latinos in America, America is going to become Latino. We're going to speak Spanish and not English. So there were two major anti immigration groups that were against this. If you want to put this in your notes, the American Protective Association, which is founded by Henry Bowers. It was an anti Catholic organization. Okay. And on the West Coast, because there were a lot of people that were against the Chinese, there was a lot of racial violence. Dennis Curie, okay, he formed the Working Men's Party of California to fight Chinese immigration. And these guys actually won some political seats. It's funny because, hey, he's an immigrant too, and he's fighting against immigrants. So, what do you think about that? Is that hypocritical or not? And eventually it got all the way to the government. Congress passes new immigration laws. And these laws were there to limit immigration. Okay? Most of these were vetoed by the presidents, but in 1882, President Chester signed two bills. And we're going to put these two bills in our notes because they are important. Again, I'm copying and pasting, but later put it in your own words. So you can write, for example, I mean, this is not a good note here because I don't know what it is. So if you are writing notes, you want to copy this and then maybe put what is this, explain what it is so that I know that that's a good note that you're taking. What is the Immigration Act? So let's see what it is. The Chinese could not come to America for 10 years. Okay? And the Chinese in America could not become citizens. Wow. And they asked for this ban, but they tried to kill this bill, but the ban was continued. And then it was permanent until 1902. And only in 1943 was this ban killed. And the Immigration Act, okay, said that there was 50 cents for each new immigrant who arrived by ship. So there was a tax, okay? The law also gave immigration officials the authority to reject immigrants who had a criminal record. Well, that's actually a pretty good idea. Who were mentally disabled or were unable to take care of themselves without becoming a public charge. And nowadays, we still have some of those laws because if you want to move to a country and become a citizen, you can't just go. You have to prove that you can work, that you can offer some service, that you are going to be important for the economy and for the culture. Okay, so some of these laws from the Immigration Act still exist. The borders were open for most of American history, but because of this Immigration Act of 1882, we started to get more tightening of the borders and closing the borders. Okay, there were inspection stations, and we get something closer to what we have today. But there was still optimism, okay, despite the difficulties, the challenges in finding work, and the anger of nativism. A lot of United States immigrants were optimists because they could find work there, and they felt like, hey, if I work hard, I can make something of my life. Now, let's look back on Blackboard. Why? Because the first question wasn't answered yet. It will be, don't worry. But in my required notes, look at that. I have lesson one, a chart listing the push and pull factors that lead people to immigrate to the US. So, where's my notes? Notes on chapter four. So, I'm going to put here required notes. And then, these are my notes down here. My personal notes. So required notes. The first one is from lesson one, chapter one, and it's this chart. So let's look at it. Whoops, what did I do? Reading strategies, and we have this big chart here. Reasons for immigrating to the United States. Push factors, pull factors. Okay, push factors and pull factors. So let's look at what they mean by that. Am I on lesson one? Yeah. So in general, pull factors applied more to Europeans and push factors applied more to Asians. So pull factors, what pulled Americans to Europe? Better jobs, higher social status, religious freedom. Whereas Asians wanted to avoid war and economic difficulty. Okay, so do you get this idea of push and pull? I'm gonna turn on my video for a second. Oh, where am I? I'm gonna say hello to everybody in 1 second. Hey guys. Okay, push is this way. So the Europeans were pushed to America. I'm sorry, pulled. Sorry, they were pulled to America. Why? Because there were good jobs, there were ways to go up the social ladder, um, there were more opportunities, okay, religious freedom, right? If they weren't Catholic, maybe. And the Chinese, they were pushed, okay, they were pushed to America because in China there was war, famine. Okay, so when you do this little chart, that's what you're thinking about when they say the pull and push factors. Okay, so let's go back over here in the little chart. So push factors, we just said, I'm going to write just one or two. So push factors, famine. That's when there's no food. War. Okay, here. More jobs. Social growth. Or social class growth. Okay, so then think of some more. Okay, you have 3 more spaces that you can fill. So remember, you have to send this with your journal. When you send your journal with your notes attached, click where there is the, let me put my camera on to talk to you guys. So on Blackboard, when you have that little, well, I guess it would be up here, upload journal entry, and then there's the box where you can copy and paste maybe the assignment answers, that would be what you want to put there. And then there's the thing to attach the notes. You attach the notes, but then you attach these little files too, these little charts. There's going to be 2 charts to do. So that's the first one. Does everybody understand? Here we are. Jesus said that you guys are not delivering your work. You have to deliver your work. So do this while I am teaching. And guys, I'll give you a hint. If if this is too difficult to do like right now, do it on a piece of paper and then transfer it later, because I know maybe you're trying to listen and write at the same time. This can be difficult. So write it on a piece of paper. Okay, you can make a little chart. I will show you what I mean. I just need to find a pen. Do I have a pen? Good question that I'm asking myself. I know I have a pen. Just where is it? So, look here, Mayada, because I see you're there. Okay, so sometimes it's difficult to do it on the, get the reading strategies, download it. So just make a little box for yourself, and then put push, and then put pull, and then put the reasons. Okay, you can do it like that. And then after the class, so you can concentrate a little bit more, you transfer it to that right there. Okay, you transfer it to this thing. Does that make sense? But you have to send this. Okay, you can't send the piece of paper, but it's just a way to the piece of paper is just to help you while you are in class. Okay, guys? Let's continue. Let's go back. So look, we did lesson 1. And we got the first reading strategy. So let's go to lesson 2. Lesson 2. How do you think that life in big cities was different from life in the small towns? Okay, so that's kind of it's going to help you a little bit. If you don't have any ideas, you can read this part to help you answer this question. Okay? So let's read. Okay? So a lot of immigrants in the US didn't have money to buy farms. Okay? So they started to move in the city. And the people in the rural areas decided to move to the cities too, because there were better paying jobs. And young women and men growing up on the farms in the East decided that, hey, we should go to the city. So after the Civil War, the United States changed from a rural nation to an urban one. Before 1860, there were only 800,000 people in New York. By 1900, there were 3.5 million people. Same thing with Chicago. Look at how much it changed. Okay? As city populations grew, The rising value of land provided an incentive to try new strategies of urban development. That's where we start to get skyscrapers. What is a skyscraper, guys? Well, there it is. It's when the building goes up, up, up. By the way, vocabulary, skyscraper is one of them. Tenant, oh, political machine. So we know we're gonna get the answer to question number 2 in this lesson. Party, boss, and graft. Um, so yes, we start to see skyscrapers, and everybody knows the. Well, let me close this. Everybody knows the Liberty Tower, right, in New York. Which is the One World Trade Center. It's the building that's there now after the Trade Center was destroyed, the two trade centers. So a lot of cities had horses, okay, and a railroad car pulled the horses, but eventually we started to have cable cars because of electricity, and then we had the electric trolley, and this is how people moved around. There was congestion. This was a big problem because there was a lot of people. Okay, so this is what a trolley car looks like. Electric trolley car. You can still see these today in some cities. In Memphis, I know San Francisco has a pretty famous one. So that's how people moved around. So how did life differ, okay, for the urban working class and other social classes? So the upper, middle, and working class lived in separate and distinct parts of town. That's not very different from today. Um, and during the last half of the 1800s, the wealthiest families had districts in the heart of the city. So different than maybe here in Sao Paulo, where some of the rich people live in the suburbs, like Morumbi and stuff like that. In America, it's the opposite. All the people with the money usually live in the center of the city. So it would be like all the rich people live in Praça da Sé, okay? And as their homes grew larger, people had servants, cooks, and they hired lower class people to do these jobs. And the middle class started to grow, okay? So people became doctors, lawyers, engineers, and many people that had these types of jobs and enough money, they usually like to move a little bit further from the center because there was too much pollution and crime and they could afford a bigger house. And in the late 1800s, most wealthy families had at least one servant, and few families in the urban working class could ever hope to own a home. Okay, so they lived in something called a tenement, and it's a multi-family apartment. So if you want to take this down for your notes, you can. But here you have a wealthy family, okay, from that time. Here's another wealthy family. But here are the tenement. These are the poorer families, and they lived all together in these little. It's kind of like a coabi that you have here in Brazil. Okay, there it is. The tenement houses. Everybody would wash their clothes, hang it out to dry. Okay, so these are the tenement homes, and These people usually worked industrial jobs, these poor people, okay? And they made about $445 a year. And here you have a picture of some people working industrial jobs around that time. But within the working class, some people were better than others, okay? For example, men made more money than African American men, so white men earn more than black men, immigrants, and women. 64% of the working class really relied on more than one wage earner. What does that mean? In order to survive, they needed at least two people working uh, and not just one. And here you have more pictures from that time. A growing number of women then started to work outside the home, as well as children, okay? But eventually this was outlawed. So white native born women were better educated than other women. So a lot of them got jobs as teachers, secretaries, clerks. Clerk is somebody that works with money, like maybe in a bank or even a supermarket. Others were domestic servants, but mostly black women were doing the work of servants, domestic servants. Okay, let's see if we have any. No, no, so far we haven't gotten any more of those questions answered. Urban problems. So, what type of problems did we have due to the rapid growth? Well, we had crime, violence, fire, disease, pollution. Okay. Crime was a big problem. Pickpockets, swindlers, thieves. A pickpocket is somebody that takes your stuff while you're not looking from your pocket. Okay. And then, here we go, political machine. We also had disease, pollution. The sewage wasn't very good. The sewage is the where the water goes into your house. Okay, it goes out of your house when you flush the toilet, when you go poop. So it's not very good. There was a lot of smoke coming out of the chimneys, so a lot of pollution. And what else happened in the cities? The political machine is an informal political group designed to keep power. Came about partly because cities had grown much faster than their governments. New city dwellers needed jobs, housing, food, heat, and political protection. In exchange for votes, political machines and party bosses who ran them eagerly provided these necessities. So, why did political machines develop in the cities? Well, we just read it, okay? It's right here on page 5 of lesson 2, and I will say it again. They grew because the cities grew faster than the government could control. So these people controlled the city, these political machines. They offered protection, they offered food, but they said, hey, if you want this protection in this food, vote for me. Okay? In exchange for votes, these political machines and the party bosses provided the necessities. So we had, for example, George Plunkett. He explains that, look, I can always get a job for a deserving man. I know every big employer in the district and in the whole city. Okay, so these guys became the controllers of the city. That's what these party bosses and political machines were. All right. If you're still there, say hello. but that's the answer to question number two. Let's go back. And the party bosses also controlled the city's finances. Okay, many machine politicians grew rich as a result of fraud or graft, which is when you get money or power illegally. Okay, so they got some money on the side in order to be richer. Sometimes they would accept bribes from contractors and in order to build streets, sewers, and buildings. This is very similar to like Petrobras, okay? This is where we get a bribe. What is a bribe? A bribe is when you receive a little bit of money to do something. So here's a good example, right? People are making an agreement, but I'm going to give you a little bit extra money on the side in order for you to do what I want. Tammany Hall is important, and this was the greatest political machine in New York City. And William Boss Tweed was its leader. Eventually, he was sent to prison for all of his corruptions because the city machines controlled everything, including the police departments. Okay? But as we can see, America changed this a little bit. It doesn't mean that there isn't corruption in America. There is. But we try at least to keep it as least corrupt as possible. Let's check on Blackboard to see if we had to do anything for lesson 2. Oh, yes, we did. So this is our second required note, a graphic organizer that shows the urban problems you read about in the textbook. So we read about a lot of urban problems. So I'm going to go to reading strategies and I'm going to click that. And there you go. You put your urban problems right there. I know that one of them was crime. Another one was traffic. Okay, and then you just go around and you save it as a PDF, give it a nice name, maybe chapter 4 required notes, and you are going to send that with your assignment questions. Okay, by the way, I'm doing this here, but when I finish, I'm just going to copy or cut and paste it directly onto Blackboard in that space to write. Okay? I hope everybody is with me. All right. So look at that. We did both of these. So your required notes are done. What you can do now, if you want, is the student chosen notes. And I'm not going to spend too much time on that because it's you choose to do those notes, or you can write your own personal notes. So when we get there, I'll show you what it looks like, but we're not gonna spend so much time on it. So let's go to lesson 3. Social Darwinism and social reform. By the way, a lot of times the guiding question is that question. What was the main idea of social Darwinism, and how did it compare with the idea of individualism? So let's see if we get the answer to that coming up. So you see that that's exactly the same question. So Mark Twain, he wrote this book at one point called The Gilded Age, which is like the golden age. And it's this time in America from 1870 to the 1900s. And it's a time where America grew a lot and everything was incredible and people made a lot of money and skyscrapers were built. But at the same time, gilded means that something is covered in gold, but it's not gold all the way through. So it was a warning that under this gold, there was a lot of corruption. There was things that were rotten, like corruption, poverty, crime, a great divide between the rich and the poor. Okay? So this is why this time is called the Gilded Age, because it's gold, but yeah, there's something behind it. So first, in order to answer the next question, we need to think about this question of individualism. Many Americans believe to this day that no matter how poor you are or where you were born, if you work hard, if you try, you will reach somewhere nice in your life. Okay? This is what we call rags to riches. And it's true. If we think of somebody like Oprah Winfrey, who became the first black woman billionaire in America, and she was born poor. Okay? A lot of presidents were born poor. Um, Writers, actually, she's from England, but we have this in J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter. Remember, she was homeless. So it's this idea that, hey, if you have a talent, if you work hard, maybe you're not going to become a millionaire, but you're going to become something. You can at least have a house, take care of your family, put your kids in school, and maybe the next generation, your kids, are going to have even more of a chance to grow in society. And another powerful idea at that time was social Darwinism. And it reinforced the ideas of individualism. Okay? So it kind of took the ideas of Darwin, of survival of the fittest, right? The animal that has the best ability to survive is the one that's best adapted to his or her surroundings. And in social Darwinism, they take this theory and said the people that are going to survive in society are the people that have the best qualities, okay? The people that are the smartest, that work the hardest. So be industrial. And because of this, social Darwinism also helped to support laissez-faire, which, if you were here for the last class, means less government involvement in business. Okay? So are we together? Let me see who's here. So guys, just remember, individualism. I can do it. Okay? So I believe in you guys. You can do it. You can do your assignments. Individualism is this idea that I can do it. If I work hard, I will achieve my goals. Social Darwinism takes the ideas of Darwin which are natural, from nature, that says the creatures that survived evolution were the creatures or animals that were best adapted to the environment. Social Darwinism says basically the same thing, but it twists it. It twists it a little bit. And it says the people that have the best chance to survive in society are the people that have the best adaptation or the best skills, the smartest, the ones that work the hardest. But there's a few problems with social Darwinism, especially when it gets to racism, okay? Because some people believe that certain races are better adapted than other races. But that's social Darwinism. And let's see if it helps answer this question. I believe it does. So, you know what I'm going to do, just to help you guys a little bit? Lesson 3, page 2. I'm going to put it like this. Lesson 3, page 2. Okay? That's where you're going to find the answer to that question. A lot of Christians didn't like social Darwinism because they believed it contradicted the Bible's account of creation, okay? Where it said that God created the world and not some evolution of adaptation. Carnegie's Gospel of Wealth. Carnegie was a wealthy man. We read about him in the last chapter. He advocated a gentler version of social Darwinism, which is the Gospel of Wealth. This philosophy said that people that had money should engage in philanthropy. Okay, philanthropy means giving your money to society to create better conditions to help others help themselves. Okay, social Darwinism said, hey, if you're poor, too bad. I mean, hopefully you have the skills to not be poor someday. But Carnegie said, no, if you're rich, you should help those poor people help themselves. Let's build better schools for them. Let's build better hospitals. Let's feed the poor. Okay, let's build libraries. That's why Carnegie to this day is still considered an important guy in American history when it comes to charity. And Carnegie's ideas were embraced. Okay. In the 1800s, a lot of people made money, but it was a time where philanthropy grew and the wealthy gave away a lot of their wealth. Let's just make sure we're not skipping a question. Whoa, what happened there? Okay, why do you think artists and writers started portraying America more realistically? We have not arrived to that point yet. We're probably going to get to page 6 today. What's 5:30? What methods and philosophies were developed to help the urban poor? Okay, what methods and philosophies were developed for helping the urban poor? Well, this started to already create this two sides in the ideology. One, hey, people should do things on their own. And the other side said, hey, the government should help people get somewhere in life. So we already start to see these two different ideas emerging. So one guy here called Henry George, he published Progress and Poverty, and it criticizes social Darwinism, where he says that wealth keeps producing power, but these people that have power just stay at the top and don't help the people at the bottom. And so laissez-faire economics actually makes society worse, not better, because the rich get rich and the poor stay poor. Okay? Now, there's a lot of economists that don't agree with this. Um, Industrialism did make some Americans very wealthy, but it also improved the standards of living of others as well. But people that were living in poverty at the time did not see an improvement. So his ideas started a lot of challenges of social Darwinism. There's another example. Lester Frank, he published a dynamic sociology where he argued that humans were different than animals, okay, because they could choose and plan. So he became known as the creator of reform Darwinism. He insisted people succeed because they cooperated and that government could regulate the economy, cure poverty, and promote education better than the marketplace. Looking backward, writer Edward Bellamy promoted another alternative in his book. He published Looking Backwards, which is a novel about a man who falls asleep in 1887 and wakes up in 2000. And the nation becomes perfect. No crime, no poverty, or politics. In this fictional society, the government owns all industry and shares the wealth equally with all Americans. It's a form of socialism. And then there's naturalism in nature, okay? Criticism of industrial society also appeared in literature, a new style known as naturalism. They also challenged social Darwinism by suggesting that some people failed in life simply because they were caught up in the circumstances they could not control. You were simply born in the wrong place. Okay? Imagine if you are born in the Congo, in Africa. It's not the best place in the world to be born. Is it your fault? Not really. So that's what the argument is. Imagine you were born in a favela, okay? It's much harder for you to make it in society than if you are born in Morumbi, right? In a rich part of Morumbi. And here they talk about some famous writers at that time. Jack London, which I really love. They just came out with the movie of Call of the Wild, but I don't know if it was good, but the book is very good. So these stories kind of made people pay attention to these issues facing American society. In literature, it had a positive impact, okay? It encouraged readers to look at social problems. It encouraged some people to become reformers. It also was very realistic. So it's going to answer that next question. It downplayed heroism and the ability of people to make a difference in their life. It discouraged people from taking action. It encouraged envy and resentment towards people of different social classes. Okay? That was some of the negative impact of the literature because it tried to say there are no heroes. Okay? And it kind of made the poor always be angry with the rich. So it created a little bit of a class divide. But it asked readers to consider whether individualism or laissez-faire was the best possible society. Okay? So these people that read this literature kind of concluded that the best way to do this is government intervention. Whether that was a positive or negative impact of the literature depended on what the person would do. So I'm going to put here chapter 4. What lesson is that? Lesson 3, page 5. Guys, if you have any questions while I'm talking, because I'm talking very much, just ask. Okay? Ask and I will answer. I'm on WhatsApp, I'm on Skype, and I'm here. So if you can write in the comment section, write. Okay? So, question number 3 was answered. Question number 3? No, question number 4. All right, we have a little bit more time, so let's see if we can finish. I don't think we're going to finish the whole chapter, but we will get close to finishing the whole chapter. So, in fact, so if that's the case, guys, we're going to finish chapter 4 on Tuesday, and we can already do quizzes on Tuesday, okay? Because there's only one more lesson. After that, we can finish it. So, helping the urban poor. Well, this is very important. A Whole House is the name of, you get this lady here, Jane Addams. She created a Whole House, and it was a place where she helped immigrants learn English, learn how to do something like a skill, help them find um, jobs. Okay, we had some ministers who helped also to try to get better conditions for people that lived in the city. We had the YMCA, the Salvation Army. We have YMCA in Brazil. Okay, it's kind of like a SESCI of America. Okay, young men could live in these boarding houses. If you ever listen to the Village People, the YMCA, yeah. And Moody rejected both the social gospel movement and social Darwinism. He believed the way to help the poor was not by providing them with services, but redeeming their soul and reforming their character. Change their character, and they will be better suited to live in society. And the settlement house is the big important one. Jane Addams, okay, she created a Whole House in Chicago, and it was a place for both women and men could learn how to read, how to do, skill. They could live. They offered medical care, recreational centers. So Whole House is very important. Public education, how did that work? The number of public schools increased a lot after the Civil War, okay? Almost 7.5 million. In school, people were taught English and learned about American history and culture. This is a process called Americanization, okay? We have right there, Americanization. And schools were also a place for discipline, so no gum in class, okay? Grammar school divided kids into grades, and they had to be neat and work efficiently. And vocational education gave kids skills like how to be work with wood, how to cook. Okay, there's many different skills that you can learn in the vocational schools. Black people obviously couldn't go to the same schools, so some blacks formed schools, like Booker T. Washington. He founded the Tuskegee Institute of 1881, where he taught black people skills, trades. Okay, Why was civil service reform needed? We didn't get to that part yet. Okay, so Booker T, he taught black people trades. And again, a trade is some type of a skill. Can you paint a house? Can you do you know how to garden? How to make a garden? Do you know how to make windows? Do you know how to bake cakes? There's a lot of different skills. So here is that question: why do you think artists and writers started portraying America more realistically? Um, Realism is this new what do you call it? Is this new style now? Okay, we talked a little bit about it already, but here it's going to go even more detail. There was a new movement called realism. Just as Darwin tried to explain the natural world scientifically, artists and writers tried to portray the world realistically. Okay, they didn't choose heroic or historical topics. They didn't try to idealize people. Some of the most famous of these writers, or there were painters too. Painters started to work this way. John Singer Sargent, Thomas Eakins. So they tried to be as realistic as possible, doing portraits of people. They painted men doing athletic things. Um, the clothes that they wore, the difference in the social classes, the way people looked doing ordinary things. And this was done in novels too. Okay, Mark Twain is probably the most famous. He wrote The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, and it's a novel about this young boy and his friend Jim who escape slavery, and they float down the river, down the Mississippi River on a raft. And Twain wrote in a local dialect with a lot of humor, okay? And through the innocence of their eyes, these two people's eyes, he showed America its own face. And so again, why do you think that this happened? Okay, and I think we answered that already. It's because they wanted to criticize America because America wasn't perfect. Okay, so this is a way to criticize without it being boring. For one, writing a manifesto, you make a movie and it criticizes. Popular culture also changed. People started to go out for entertainment. Okay, people went to saloons, which are like bars, and saloons offered drinks, free toilets, water for horses, free newspapers for customers, sometimes a free lunch. Sometimes there was music there. Okay, working class families sometimes went to amusement parks in Coney Island. Amusement park is this right here in Coney Island. You can be very specific because this amusement park still exists. This is how it is now, but in the 1900s it was very small. There it is in the 1900s. Okay, so people went out for entertainment. People began to watch professional sports. That's when baseball began. Okay, the first World Series was in 1903. Football, American football, became popular. Work became easier because of new inventions. You could work less. So people started to do tennis, golf, okay? There's a lot of changes going around at this time. And finally, we're going to finish today's class on this page. Tin Pan Alley is another form of entertainment where people had singers, animal acts, okay, vaudeville, ragtime music, Scott Joplin, became a famous. He was a pianist at that time. Okay, play the piano. Banjo players. So music started to grow at this time. The music industry. I'm gonna put this here for you to see. What is the Tin Pan Alley? Tin Pan Alley. Music publishers. Okay, and Scott Joplin was a famous pianist at that time, the king of ragtime. 16 of his hits. Okay, so that's Scott Joplin. And you've probably heard his music and you just don't know it. So look up Scott Joplin, the entertainer, on YouTube. Yeah, so music industry grew. Okay. Um, During this time, people sold sheet music so people could play the music at home because not a lot of people had ways to listen to the music through phonographs. So they would actually learn the music on their instruments and play the popular songs for themselves. The negative side is that um, there was a lot of racial stereotypes, and African American songs had themes and context that appealed to white Americans. And some of the songs had bad jokes in them about blacks and things like that. So there was not a good side, but most of it was positive because it was really responsible for getting the careers of many famous American songwriters like Irving Berlin, George Cohen, Ira Gershwin, Cole Porter, Scott Joplin. These are all really great singers, or not singers, writers. But there were stereotypes, blackface, vaudeville, vaudeville is not cool. It is considered very racist in America. A white person puts on the black makeup to try to act like a black person. This is not cool, guys. Don't do it, or you will get many people angry with you. Okay? But at the time, that's what people did, right? Because America was still very segregated at that time. So that's it, boys and girls. Oh, Mayada, you said okay again. All right, let me get me big here. Wow, guys, that was a lot of information. Oh my God, it was a lot of information. American history. Well, on Tuesday, we will finish chapter 3. We will go into lesson 4 to try to answer the rest of those questions. But what do you have to do? You have to do your quizzes. Start doing your quizzes this weekend. After we finish lesson 4 on Tuesday, guess what? We're going to start. I'm going to give you some time to do your quizzes, okay? Do your quizzes for chapter 4. You open up your pretty little notebooks, you go to Blackboard, and you are going to answer the questions, okay? In fact, no, I made a mistake because you guys haven't done the quizzes even for chapter 1, and we are on chapter 4, okay? So, in fact, what you're going to do is open your Blackboard and start doing the quizzes for chapter 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, okay? That's what you need to do. And I'll be here. I'll be, maybe I'll be silent as you work. But if you have questions about the quizzes, you can ask me. So we're going to take a little pause so I don't go too far ahead. But that's what's going to happen, people. Because if you don't do your quizzes, you're going to be very behind. You have to do your journal entries. I promised you I would make a video on that document, the historical document, and I will. Okay, just give me a minute to rest my voice. I'll try to make that either on Sunday or on Monday, and I'll upload it to give you an idea on how to do that assignment, because I know some of you were a little confused by it. It was the first assignment, and it is kind of big for a first assignment. So I understand the confusion. Even Mr. Ray was a little confused in the beginning because it is a big assignment, but I will help you with that. Okay, it's not, it's less complicated than it looks. And that's it. Okay, you guys are awesome. You're really hard workers. I know you have a lot of work to do. You have Mr. Gibson's class, you have Miss Summers' class, so you have a lot to do. In U.S. history is sometimes boring, but it's also interesting and it's important because you got to know about the world, guys. You speak English, so you're gonna be in contact one day with people that are from America, from England, from other parts of the world. So you got to know how to talk about their country, their economies, their governments. And even if you don't talk to these people, maybe you're gonna work here in Brazil in a bank, or you're gonna work in an with computers. Well, guess what? You have to know what's going on in other parts of the world. Today we live in a global world. Okay, so you can't just think about only Brazil. You have to think about what is happening in America, what's happening in England, what's happening in China, like we see now with this coronavirus, right? We have to have a global mindset. And as you guys speak English, it's important that you get some idea about what happens in America, in American history, and how Americans act, so that you can communicate with them better, culturally and linguistically. All right, young people, I'm going to go. Thank you for being here. As the class was going, you could have written a message there, but now I'm going to end the broadcast. So if you have any more questions, write them below. Upload, 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 and be very good, everybody. Okay, so thank you, Mayada, Victor, Bon Jovi, Sophia, Little Mateus, um, Gustavo, Lily, Sophia, and anybody who was not able to write because of their Gmail restrictions. Thank you. Goodbye.